So today is part 3 of our 3-part series it was originally called difficult conversations. But last week came forward with renaming it courageous conversations. So I like that. I like that positive spin on it a little better. So courageous conversations, and we have discussed it. The conversations are actually with 3 audiences. One is with ourself and our own aging process. And then second, it could be with an aging loved one. And then third, it could be that someone else is going to have a conversation with you about your own aging. So we cover the whole gamut here. So the concepts really cover everybody, and whatever audience you are in, feel free to just plug in the wording that works for you. But it's the same concepts. So in week 1, we talked about the awarenesses inside of ourself about our own aging and our loved one's aging. Could be a parent, loved one, friend, and explored how we felt about that so that we could clear any imbalances, fears, well, not any, but whatever was present at the time. It's an ongoing process, so that we could clear our screen and come to a conversation with someone else or ourselves with, say, a clean plate, meaning we are aware of our beliefs, our fears, our excitements, all that go into aging, so that when we are in the conversation, it doesn't surprise us. So that was week 1. Week 2 was how to I says function, behave, all these words come up, which is funny. How to have the conversation. So it's during the conversation. So we talked about coming from a place of compassion for ourselves and for the person that we're going to be talking to. Have curiosity. So instead of coming from a place of, you need help, you need to move, you need to stop driving, all of these things that could potentially come up with aging, come from a place of curiosity. So we're asking the other person, how are you feeling about whatever the difficult topic is? So you find out more about them. What's their story? What are their desires? Being curious. And then the third C was clarification. So compassion, curiosity, and clarification. So in the conversation, you could say, oh, I hear you saying you want to stay at home for the rest of your life. Did I understand you? Did I get you? And so you clarify those things. So those are the biggest keys for a successful conversation. And so today we're going to be talking about what outcome we want from these conversations. So emotionally, of course, we want to come out of the conversation clear, maybe uplifted, connected with ourselves, with our loved ones. So there's an emotional piece that each of us will have our own take on that. And it could be over time. If it's a parent that we've had a rocky relationship with, it could be, I just want to feel a little closer. I just want an awareness of this habit that we've always had together, and I want to improve that. So the emotional connected part will be individual, and I'll let you kind of grapple with that. The thing that we're going to be talking about today is more of a nuts and bolts, legal documents, and other information that you want to get prepared, not only for yourself, but encourage your loved ones to fill out and to gather up to make the, well, I'll say aging, but actually living, because it's at any age we need these documents. It comes especially to our mind as we get older, but really anybody over the age of 18 could use these documents. So we'll talk about those today. All right. So we'll talk about what you need, and then why you need it, and then why people don't want to do it. We talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about that last week, as far as like we each have an age in our mind, like I don't need it because I'm only 27, but the person's like 85. And they're like, I don't need it. I'm doing fine. I remember my grandmother, she was 85. And we're like, Grandma, do you want like an emergency necklace so in case you fall? No. Do you need this? She goes, no, I just need to get in my car because I need to deliver food to the old people. So she would deliver Meals on Wheels, but she never needed help. In her mind, she never needed help. And she certainly wouldn't have wanted to get these documents because she didn't understand the importance of it. But um, the case that kept coming up to me today when I talk about the importance of documents, legal documents, to take care of both your health care and your finances and assets, is the famous case of Terry Schiavo. That was in the 1990s. If anybody remembers that, anybody remember that? So in 1990, Terry Schiavo was 26, and she had a cardiac arrest. She collapsed, and she was taken to the hospital. She was just recently married. She's taken to the hospital, and basically within a short period of time, she was put on life support, and she didn't have any advance directives in place. So she didn't have anything written down to say, if something happens to me that I need life sustaining treatment, I want it, I don't want it, I want it for this long, like nothing in writing at all. So her whole case got put into the courts. So the judges and the state were the ones that decided on her care. Now her husband tried to make decisions, and then the parents disagreed. And so it actually lasted 15 years that Terry Schiavo was on life support. In 2001, the husband finally got the courts to say, come on off life support. And then that was overruled. So she went back on. And then 2003, she was off and then back on again. So it wasn't for 15 years total that she was on and off life support. So this was just a famous case of why it's important to have documentation in place so that you can tell your loved ones and your doctors what kind of care that you need or care that you want if you're no longer able to speak for yourself, so other people can advocate for you. So so these would take place if you got sick, if you were incapacitated for a short time or a long time. So Karen, you can share that screen with the list of the legal documents, please. So there's 5 documents, 5 main documents that I want to talk to you about today. And the first 2 go together and they're both for healthcare. So together, the durable power of attorney for healthcare and a living will create what's called an advance directive. And this allows you to designate a proxy or an agent for you. So you pick 1 or 2 trusted friends, relatives, whoever that you think will speak for you and advocate for you if you need help with your health. Say if you're in the hospital, if you have memory loss, anything, that person will speak up for you. So a durable power of attorney for healthcare is the document that allows you to pick an agent. This says, as Cheryl, I picked Mary to be my person. The living will portion of it is where you specify what kind of medical treatment that you want or you don't want. And you can be as specific or non-specific as you want. There's a great document that includes both of these. So it's an advance directive, and it's called the 5 Wishes. And it's good in, I believe, 46 different states right now, which you can buy online. Super easy. I think it's $5. And it is beautifully written so that it not only talks about your healthcare needs, but your spiritual needs, your medical needs, your family needs, your end of life care, things you want at your funeral, things like that. So it asks you open-ended questions so you can really think about those things. So the living will, you can specify Say if you were Terry Schiavo, maybe you said, "Hey, I want anything life-sustaining for a month or 2 months or until 2 doctors say that I have no chance of recovering," or whatever the specifics are. That's a document that you specify those needs. And so the important thing is to talk to the people that you want to be your agent and say, "Hey, I trust you and I'd like you to be my agent." And they say yes or no. And then you give them give them the form after you fill it out. Some doctor's offices will keep them on file. If you go to a hospital, they're going to ask you that. Uh, I would just say don't expect the hospital to have it on file when you arrive at one. Although we've come a long way with electronic medical records. Most of those records don't really follow you, so don't most likely you're going to get a check in the hospital and they'll say, "Do you have an advance directive?" And you say yes, and you want to give it to them. So if you have it, or if the agent has it, and they can get it to the hospital, so that allows whoever is your agent to talk to the medical people, uh, so your doctors at the hospital or the nurses. While sometimes you can still talk to them if you call and uh, are kind to the nurses. So it's not that you won't be able to for sure, but to make sure that you are able to talk to the people that you want, and the doctors will actually call you back and talk to you. You'll definitely want the advance directives filled out. So Arlene and I did a workshop just on the 5 wishes, and that is actually stored on um, the heartfelt website also. But we may do another. May do another one at some point if people are interested, just to take an hour and go through that together. But my guess is that if you haven't done it yet, that you know how to access that, and it's just a matter of filling it out potentially. Sometimes it's good to get in a group and when everybody's doing it, do it together. Okay, so that's for the healthcare piece. Then you have your finances and your estate. So the document you want there is a power of attorney for finances. So it's like a general power of attorney for finances. If you are in the hospital and you need to hire some caregiving, if your agent has that document, they can go to the bank and say, "This person, needs my help, and here's the power of attorney." Now, sometimes each of the banks have their own forms that they want you to fill out. So you want to check with that too. Say if you're, Wells Fargo or the credit union, wherever you are, wherever your accounts are, check with them to see if there's another document. But generally, the power of attorney will help access your accounts so you can get some money for your care. And those only go into effect when you need it. So, and also pick people you trust. So then don't try to use that power of attorney early. The healthcare power of attorney also, you can have it be a springable or durable power of attorney, which means if it only takes effect if, say, 2 doctors say you don't have capacity anymore, or some of them are just good anytime. So when you're writing it out, you'll just want to be specific with when you want that power of attorney to take effect. So you've got the advanced directives, and you've got the durable power of attorney for finance. Next, what's important is to have a will. So a will, you have someone as your agent again, or executor of your will, and it outlines where you want your assets to go after you passed away. So, and also if someone has minor children under 18, that's the place that's a place where it's written about what will happen with your kids, who's going to take care of your kids. So that document really protects your assets and your family. A lot of these documents, it's twofold. One, it protects you, so you'll have control while you're living and when you're dead. but also it can avoid a lot of family conflict. If people in your family or friends have different ideas as far as how things should be handled, these documents will tell them what your wishes are. So you have a will, and that is also very easy to fill out. You could just type that up yourself. There's free resources online. I'm going to put a resource list on the Heartfelt page. If you go to heartfelt.org and under resources and navigating aging with Dr. Cheryl, I keep adding to this resource list, and I'll put resources there for online uh, to have powers of attorney or wills filled out. So power of attorney for healthcare, you just need two people to witness it. You don't even need to get it notarized. They try to make it super easy for you. The will, I think uh, I think you might just need to get that witness too. I don't know for sure. But I know with the living trust, which is next, that is more of a legal document, and you definitely need to get that notarized. So if your estate is over, say, $100,000 and you have a home involved, it's a very good thing to get a trust. And now that's in California. I understand I was helping someone in New York, and their rules are a little bit different. But in California specifically, to avoid probate for over, say, $150,000 estate, uh, you'll want to get a trust. If it's just in a will, that can still go to probate. So if you don't have a trust, and if you have a large estate with no, I'm sorry, if you just have a will, and if you have a large estate with no trust, your estate after you die will go into probate, which means it's sent to the courts to figure out, and that costs money and a lot of time and hassle. And it could take at least 9 months to get all of that straightened out and for your loved ones to have any access to your money. So those are the 5 documents: 2 for healthcare, 1 for finances, a will, and a trust. Now, when someone gets closer to the end of their life or they have a serious illness, there is such a thing as a DNR, or do not resuscitate, or a POLST, which is a physician's orders on life-sustaining treatment. So if someone goes on hospice, for example, or knows they're getting close to the end of their life and they do not want to go back to the hospital, these documents will tell the paramedics, hey, I don't want to be resuscitated, or I don't want a specific thing. And those need to be signed by your physician. So the DNR and the POLST are physician signed with you. You're in agreement with your physician about those. The 2 things I'll mention, there's other documents that some people need. These are the basic ones. If someone owns businesses, if they own multiple homes, if they have stepkids, if they have if they have special needs children, there's different kind of trusts and different kind of documents. So this is just in general, and you'll want to, of course, talk to your lawyer or your tax attorney. Sometimes there's tax benefits to a trust that you want to take advantage of, but you want to talk to your tax person and your lawyer if you're getting a trust to make sure you've got the right documents for your case. There's 2 other simple things to do with accounts. One is called payable on death account. So if you have a checking account and you want to just leave that money for someone, then you put their name on the payable on death benefit. Like, you leave them as that beneficiary. So it doesn't have to go through probate. It can just go right to them. Secondly is transfer on death deed. So if you have a house and you want to leave your house to someone, that is one thing to check out, is a transfer on death deed. So again, these are state specific and also case specific to you. So just take this as in general, but the legal documents to get in place are for everybody, especially healthcare and a will, and picking a person to help you with all this. There's a lot of famous people that you've probably heard of that died without a will or trust or any estate plans, like Abraham Lincoln, Prince, Howard Hughes, Sonny Bono, Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix. Lots of people, like even with a lot of money, they don't, they didn't leave a plan. And it takes years and years in court to figure it out. And there was a study done in 2021, why Americans have not drawn up a will. So I haven't gotten around to it, was 34% of the people. I don't have enough assets to leave anyone, that's 28% of the people. I don't know how to get a will or living trust, 7%, and it's too expensive to set up, which is 6% of the people. So I haven't got around to it, 34% of people, and about 60% of the people do not have estate plans drawn up. So most likely you are in the majority today if you don't have your estate plans set up yet. But I hope after today, you'll realize that it's very easy to set up. It's inexpensive. And actually, when I was looking this up, I noticed that there's several to many sites now that will allow you to do a will and a trust online. I was looking on NerdWallet, and they listed like 10 new sites that you can actually, for about $600, you can even have a trust drawn up. A will, like I said, should be super inexpensive, almost free if you just do it yourself. So there's lots of resources online. If you go to a lawyer, average for a basic trust and a whole estate plan is about $2,000. If it's complicated, it's going to be more, but that's a general rule for like a regular, size estate, like a house and some assets. Okay. I would love to open it up for questions, comments, anything. And Yvonne, I would love to hear from you. Take it off mute.
Oh,
there you are. Hi, honey.
It took me a long time. Cheryl, I have an interesting situation. I'm in the middle of all of this right now because my daughter has all the information for all the forms and everything in storage in a place she can't even access. So we're starting all over again. But this call right now that I need help with is, and I'm using the person's name. I don't know if it's okay or not. Tell me, can I be person specific here?
Well, how about we leave her name out? I may know who you're talking about. I think I do know who you're talking about. So
I live in Tucson. This person I'm talking about is in the hospital, and they called me because I was her medical power of attorney, and so they told me call a hospital. Well, here's the situation: they want to release her. They won't tell her where she's going. She doesn't know next steps, and they won't, if you're not a relative, forget it. They will not communicate with you. Now, I have no physical form. I would be calling long distance to call the hospital and say, I am on file as her medical power of attorney. How are they going to check that out?
Exactly. So there are some services now, websites that allow you to store advanced directives on the cloud. So maybe it's downloadable somewhere, someone's in the hospital. But I would say from my experience that it's still hard copy based. So if you had a hard copy of it, or if you're for yourself, like if your daughter had a hard copy, she would scan it and send it to the hospital or bring it to the hospital. So you don't have anything, but if the person that's in the hospital gives her okay to talk to you there, meaning she's in the hospital and she tells the nurse, I'm going to sign healthcare, the HIPAA form, the confidentiality form, to say it's okay to talk to blank person, then that's the same as having it filled out beforehand.
Okay, can I ask you this question? I was I got involved in this. I don't even know how. Earlier on, when she was incoherent, and they found her on the streets, and they didn't know what to do with her. So fast forward now, she's in a good hospital in Santa Monica, and they want to release her. And what's the procedure if they called me because I was the medical power of attorney? That means something. I mean, where they get that information? Do they need a hard copy? Do they need a physical person present?
Well, a hard copy would be best. So for everybody here that's going to be filling out their form, get a hard copy and give it to the person who's going to be your agent, so they have it. So if they're in another city and you're in a hospital in another city, they'll have it. I mean, now you can have it on your phone, take a picture and keep it on your phone. That's the safest way.
Okay.
So say she's in the hospital and she tells the nursing staff, when they ask, who do you want? Who is it okay for us to talk to? And they put your name in their records. So you could call the hospital and say, so-and-so, Mary, gave
Okay.
your permission to talk to me.
Okay.
Now I know a little bit about what's going on, and what I'll say in general in situations at the hospital. So when a person has capacity, if they understand the consequences of their behavior, then they have the right to make their own decisions. And even if you have a power of attorney, it doesn't matter what your power of attorney is saying, really. The doctors and the nurses are going to look at the person there at the hospital and say, what do you want? Now, if you've ever been to the hospital, you know that you're not really thinking very clearly, and it is nice to have help from someone. So hopefully they'll get you'll be talking with your power of attorney, your agent in that, but they will let the person in the hospital make the choice. So they don't necessarily need to call you. Now, they would call the power of attorney if the hospital decides this person doesn't have capacity, or they don't understand the consequences. They may have some memory impairment. They may have dementia, Alzheimer's type of thing. Then they would want to be in communication if the person has a power of attorney that can help and that's responsible for making the healthcare decisions. And if that person doesn't have that in writing and is already in a state of, say, memory loss, they can't think clearly, they can't sign paperwork, then that person becomes, so this is another reason why to fill out these forms. You show up in the hospital, you're not thinking clearly, you don't have documents, that person is really turned over. It's not exactly the way to say it, but basically the state will take over. The social workers get the state and the conservators, the guardians involved. They come out to the hospital. There's like a little judge involved. So there's people other than you and other than your power of attorney that are involved in making healthcare decisions for you. So I used to work at an inpatient geriatric psychiatric unit at a hospital. So people would come in and they'd have some form of dementia. A lot of times sometimes they didn't have any family involved. Maybe they came off the street and they're in there trying to get balanced out. So they might have been brought in on what's called a 5150 hold. That means that someone has reported them unsafe and they can't care for themselves. So the social worker or nurse brings them in. 5150 hold means against their will because of their memory impairment. So they bring them in for 3 days. They're allowed to keep for 3 days and say, do you need some help? How can we help you? And then if they think the person is really not well, they can apply for another period of time, like 7 to 10 days. And then during that time, they get the state involved and to see, does this person need a conservator to take care of them because they can't care for themselves anymore?
Cheryl,
So
I need to ask you a question at this point,
Yeah,
because I don't think I really understand. But
right,
what I've been told is that if we can't have something specific telling us what the next thing they're going to do, we're going to lose her in the system again. How are we going to
right,
know what they do with her? Because we can't
right,
tell you.
right. This is a great reason. This is a perfect example of why to get the paperwork involved. Fill out the paperwork
Yes.
so that they know. Um, and it makes total sense that you not following every detail as far as what happens, like 5250 hold and all of this. Um, but people will watch the replay or someone is in the system already and they'll know what I'm talking about. All this to say, get your paperwork filled out so you don't have to deal with that. Um, and if, I mean, for this person, for example, I may have someone like if she doesn't have any family, nobody involved, say someone from Heartfelt or the church that knows her, maybe go to the hospital and talk to the nurses and say this, see if they will at least inform you of where she's going to be going. The
Well,
social workers at
I
the
think that,
social workers at the
and they
social workers at the hospital, sorry, are responsible for a safe discharge. So anybody that goes into the hospital, they're usually not going to just kick them out on the street. Now we've heard stories about that on the news, of course, but uh, they are responsible for a safe discharge, especially if the person has some memory impairment and they can't really care for themselves anymore. That means they're going to find them a, a usually it's a nursing home that has a memory care unit and that the state will pay for. So the goal would be to let the social worker know at the hospital, hey, we are her church. We care about her. I was her power of attorney. I don't have a form now, but please let us know where she goes. That's that's what I would
Lori,
suggest about that. But it sounds like
Okay,
she's going to get.
Lori, speak a minute.
yeah, can I just say something? There is somebody from the church who did go to the hospital and they would not give her any information. So I'm just wondering if the best approach right now is to get that, what is it, the HIPAA form, and have this woman sign it saying Yvonne is her power of attorney, because that is, the hospital thinks that she may be the power of attorney because they called Yvonne to let her know where this person is. And we had totally lost track of her. It was just a godsend that they called Yvonne. So do you think that would be the best thing to do at this time? Just have her sign it while she's in the hospital?
Well, theoretically, yes, but if she's in the hospital and they already have on their chart that she has cognitive impairment and she's not able to care for herself, that means she's not able to enter into a legal document at this point, right?
Yeah, good
So
point.
that's why it's important to get your documents done now while you can, because nobody knows what's going to happen. Something may happen even for a short time. You get knocked on the head playing volleyball, you're out, concussion, you don't know where you're at for a period of time, or much later down the road. So it's important to get your documents in place so you can have the people that you know and love be with you through the system, right? So if someone was in the hospital right now and they even had memory impairment, but they had a loved one with the documents filled out, they had their living will, they have their power of attorney, that person could easily go talk to the doctors, and the hospital wants to find a loved one, a power of attorney to take care of this patient. They don't really want to, get the state involved and a conservator involved. That's a lot of work. So they want to give it to somebody. So it's just another example of get your documents in place and have your loved ones know where they are. So some people have a safe in their house, and they'll give their trustee or their agent the code to their safe and say, look, if anything happens, This is the code. I was executor for this for a friend of mine, and he was so funny. He had all his documents, and he didn't know about the trust. I was going to be his executor, and he didn't know about a trust. He's like, "Oh, I've got a will." I said, "No, get a trust," because he didn't want to make it hard on me. So he did. He's like, "Okay, we'll just do it." So he had a trust, and he put all the documents in the safe, and then he emailed me part of the code to the safe, and then he hard copied, mailed me another part of the code for the safe because he really wanted to be super safe. So, but when something happened to him, I put the code together, and he was in the hospital. I was able to get in his safe. I was able to get in his documents. I was getting in his bank account to hire him care. I was able to talk to all the hospital nurses and doctors and the nursing home and provide him the best care. But the only reason, because he had no family, never married, didn't have kids, I was his person. And the only way I could provide him excellent care was because he had all those documents filled out. And he told me how to get to them when I needed them. Sometimes people fill out a trust or a will with personal information, like I want Bobby to have my Mercedes and I want Jody to have $100,000. Like, a lot of people don't want that information given out. So they wouldn't give a copy of the trust or the will to the people that are getting it. They'll say like, "Hey, it's in my safe. When I die, you know where to get it." And so then people know what they're getting afterwards. And sometimes it's great. These are living documents. You could update them anytime you want. And it's great to just go back every year and look at them again. Say like, "Hey, is this a person?" Like when Mackenzie, my daughter, was little, at that time of her life, she was more connected with a certain family. And then when she was a little older, she wasn't really connected with them anymore. It was someone else. And so it was like, well, if something happened to us, where would we want Mackenzie to go? So that changed over time. So we've changed our documents several times. So these are living documents, but it's really important. Like Yvonne, I want you to get those copies. So even if your daughter they're in deep storage, just make a new one. I don't, like just
start over. Yeah, we're starting over.
Just start over. Yeah, just start over. They're easy. They're very easy to do. It's more emotionally difficult. You could finish all these documents by the end of today.
Well, her point of view,
if you wanted to, like anybody, not just you, but anybody could. They're that easy.
Check it out, because I got to tell you, she did research and she said what you did in California is transferable. They said no, it's not, and she said, well, yes, it is. So you gotta not assume one person has given you everything you need. You really don't. You've got to double check.
It's true. It's true. And
Lori and
sure.
me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Lori knows where to find me.
Yeah, I know.
We've got our, and what's beautiful, I'll just take it as a moment to remind me or remind us that the reason we're having these discussions and the reason that like Lori's a big part of finding heartfelt reps around the country while Heartfelt is providing the services is because we want to create a community that we know that we're not alone, that we're living and aging and loving together, and that I don't have all the answers, but if there's other people in the community that know, like together, we're brilliant. So as a church and as Heartfelt, that we're with you, and I've got your back, we've got your back. So it's a group thing.
And I just have one
Susan,
quick.
did you have? Yeah.
Can I just finish this just real quickly? Sure. This person is supposed to be released from the hospital tomorrow. So do you think the best strategy at this point would be for Yvonne, who they think is the power of attorney, to call to find out where she's going?
Sure. Some of this, there's not a black and white. I could tell you, yes, you're supposed to have this document and it's supposed to be signed, it's supposed to be notarized. But when it comes down to it, I mean, I have talked to plenty of nurses and doctors over the phone without having any paperwork in place. So if you call up and you like talk to the right nurse, use the right attitude, calm the light, be clear, or show up in person. There's ways to get around it. There's ways to make your voice known. And I always say, like, if the intention is in integrity, so I never would call up and talk to some doctor about someone I'm not involved with, that I have no business with. But if I know that my intention is clear and that I need this information about this person to help them because they've asked for my help, then I feel totally clear with just like, okay, let's make this happen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Susan. Hi.
Hi, I had two questions, small questions. One of them is, you said do the pulse at the very end when you feel like you're going. Why not now? I mean, we've all done our pulse around here, and I mean, we're in our 80s, my friends and I. So,
yeah,
too soon? Why would I not do it?
Yes, I love that question. So, when do you do the pulse, right? So some people do it early, and I mean early, like, I mean, maybe if you look back, maybe they weren't going to be gone for like 10 years or so. Like, so it was early. Nothing was on the radar of like, wow, this is, you've got something that's going to decline. I think it's possible, and it's really just between you and your doctor, because the pulse and the DNR, the doctor has to sign. So some doctors may be totally fine with filling it out, and some may not be. So it could totally work. And then if one is filling it out, and the second is having it available. So sometimes what people do is, if they're living alone, or maybe they're not living alone, but they're older and they're living at home. There's not one way to do it. It used to be like some people put their advanced directive or their DNR or pulse, as far as end of life type of things, in the refrigerator or in the freezer, and there's a location, or some people put it on the front of their refrigerator. So if you fall, not you, someone falls, and they call the paramedics, and the only way the paramedics are able to not provide all the care that one might need, is if they have this either pulsed or DNR forms that say, look, don't resuscitate, it's fine. If they don't have that, they're legally, ethically supposed to do everything they can. So the goal would be to somehow have that form available so the paramedics would know, for example, if you're in your house. Maybe some people put it in their purse and they, but you see the subjectivity of it. Like, if you're out and you fall and you're unconscious, are they going to check your purse for a pulse or DNR? I mean, maybe if they're looking for your ID. So it's sort of like, just do the best you can, put it where you think the paramedics are going to be. Maybe even if you live somewhere, say by yourself, you call the local fire department and say, hey, just want to know, like, if I fall, where would you guys look for these advanced documents? That'd be a great question. The fire departments get lots of calls as people age. Sometimes they call them back to bed calls, like, I've fallen and I can't get up. So they're familiar with helping older people and the whole aging thing. The fire department is very aware of that. So it would be interesting to find out where your local people are used to looking for that.
Okay. The second question you mentioned two things. One was transfer on death deed, but the first one was table or death, or checking something.
Yes, payable on death account.
Oh, okay. And that was for what again?
So a payable death account allows you to let your bank know who should inherit the money in that account when you die. Okay. It allows you to have leave it as a beneficiary. They wouldn't have access to your money while you're still alive. And I guess you would only know if the person told you. Actually, that may not be true. I haven't filled that particular form out yet because I have all our accounts in a trust, and so the executor of the trust would know where all our accounts were. But say if you have this, this account and you don't need a trust, you just want to leave this account to someone. My guess is that the bank would probably get their social security number and um, maybe a driver's license or some personal information about that person. So
Okay.
they would know to contact you at the end.
Okay.
Sometimes people, if money goes into probate, someone dies and they don't have a will, the money goes to the state. And if you look on the state logs, there's lots of money sitting in the state that's gone unclaimed, that maybe people didn't even know that they had coming to them, or just money that someone left. And then like a long lost granddaughter shows up and says, "Hey, grandpa left me this money. I didn't even know it's on the state website." So
Thank you.
does that help?
Yep. Thank you.
Yes. John.
Hey, Cheryl.
Hey, buddy.
So I heard you say at the beginning, we missed you last week. We had a lot going on, and that this was like 3 of 3. And so does that mean that you're kind of done with this for now, or will you be doing more? And just wanted to check in.
That's a great question. So I plan on doing this every Tuesday at noon Pacific time until Spirit says we're done. So it's ongoing. And so this was just a 3-part series about how to have a courageous conversation about aging. So the process of that. So this is the 3-part series. And then next week, a topic hasn't come in yet. So if anybody has a topic they want to talk about next week, or I'll come up with a topic and that'll be sent out in the email that's sent out beforehand. So it'll be something about aging.
Well, that's just wonderful news, because that was going to be my next question. If I just see what you're doing, I mean, as being really significant, and I see that you have a unique. There's all the information you have, which is phenomenal, and there's just a unique quality that you have that you bring to all this, that there just aren't words good enough for it. And I'm just really grateful for certainly what you've given to our family, and the love. And I think that's the key word. It's just you have a vibration of loving that is
Were there.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
So
nice to hear her.
yeah.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. I feel your love. I feel that.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
realize I forgot to introduce myself again, but I'm Cheryl Matthew. But I have been a geriatric care manager for over 20 years, and I'm a social worker, and have worked in a lot of different areas in aging, from adult daycare to memory care to assisted living to private care at home to hospice care and hospital discharge planning. And so I've helped many families go through this process. So I kind of been around the bend with this. So I'm happy to share this with our family here. Peggy.
Hi, I'd like to share what I've done in relationship to the discussion of what to have for the hospital, paramedics, where to put it, etc. Just out of my own experience, I want to share with you what I've done. I have put together in a plastic folder, and I'm going to hold it up, and it's called Emergency Hospital and Paramedic Information. And it stays by my front door. And in it, I have several things. I have a list of all the medications I've taken, surgeries I've had, everything that they ask you at the hospital, that when you're in the middle of treatment, you can't, remember all the medications, everything like that. And then I have a copy of my health insurance cards, my Medicare, Anthem Blue Cross. Then I have a list of all the important contact numbers from my landlord, family, power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, etc. Then I have a copy of the Advanced Healthcare Directive that includes the power of attorney for healthcare information. Then I have included the post form. And then finally, because I'm signed up to be cremated, I have a copy of the Neptune Society information and card. And I did this because number one, of experience in having to call 911, and just over the years of dealing with lots of different situations and people and everything, I thought this would be great if 911 is called. They don't have to guess what my wishes are. They don't have to guess what medications I'm taking. They don't have to guess, do I want to be kept alive or not? So that's what I did. And I put it in a folder, and I made sure that the folder was named on the outside, emergency. So anyway, that's what I've done.
That's great, Peggy. And as I was preparing for today, my initial desire was to go through all of the, more of the documentation and the important contacts and all, some of the things that you mentioned, but it just was too much to focus on that and the legal documents. It may be a whole separate workshop on just the other things that you mentioned. And we'll also, Peggy, you have provided a couple documents that we have on the heartfelt resource list now, as far as a list of, here's the important contacts to think about, right? Doctor's, physician, all these things that people can fill out. They can download it and fill that out. On the heartfelt list, we could have a subtitle like, here's all the documents for your emergency file. And when you think about that file, you think, when someone shows up at the emergency room, that person is just a blank slate to the medical professionals there. So you are bringing everything you can to help them put the pieces together to help you. So, right, you want to let them know what, you think if they were asking you, when you go to the doctor and you fill out these long forms, what kind of questions do they ask? Those are the kind of things to think about, right? Karen's showing you the kind of things to think about. You can look really fast. So you want to let them know your medication, your health conditions, who your power of attorney is, your insurance information, the healthcare power of attorney. So if someone were like you, thinking this may be needed, right? Actually, we could all use it near our door at any time. I mean, I can put one on my door now because who knows what's going to happen to me. But we tend to think, well, I'm going to wait till later, somehow compromised and I'm closer to needing that emergency file. So if we could guess that day, then I could just put it outside on that day that I'll need it. But that's not going to happen most likely. So if a person is borderline, they have a condition that I think they may be going to the hospital soon, I will put together a packet for them with all those things that you mentioned. And we'll have those lists of what documents to bring with you. So you make it super easy for the hospital to go, we know nothing about this person, to we have the pieces that we're going to put together, especially medication, health conditions, prior surgeries, to think why does this person look like this today? And what did they look like yesterday? So those are great things. I'm so glad you brought that up, Peggy. You're
Um,
so organized.
I'd like to say one thing too, that I recently put this, made use of this. When I was taken to the emergency room, I think it was when I cut my leg, I just grabbed my folder, I took it in, I handed it to the nurse. They were very grateful that they
Yes.
had all this information in one place. They didn't have to guess anything, and particularly about the medication, because I found, and they've said, you know, when you're being treated for in an emergency situation, medication that you're taking is a really important thing to know, so they don't give you, you know, conflicting medication. So I'm glad I did this because I made use.
Yes. It's really, really valuable. Really valuable. Like, make it easy for the people that you love to help you when you need it. Make it easy on the medical staff to help you when you need it. So, you know, if you think, why should you do it? You know, why fill out these forms and things? So you don't waste time, you don't waste money, you leave things complete, you make it easy on your friends who want to help or family. You get the treatment that you want, so you stay in control in a way when you have the forms filled out. You get what you want, even if you can't speak for yourself. Anybody else have anything before we call this complete for today? So on the heartfelt resource page, I will give you some links to different websites that you can access. Like, there's in California, there's a whole website, and this is really easy to Google if you just like advanced directives and then your state. And usually the state agency on aging, office on aging, will have free resources there. So California has a great one that has, you can fill out power of attorney there for free. They have forms for a will. And so it's just super easy. So ease is not the reason not to do it, right? So if you have been thinking for a while, you know, I've heard of these documents and I still don't have them in place. You know, we've been talking through the course of the weeks here, like what motivates us not to do it. If I'm not sure what you need to hear, but maybe something you heard today will just kind of motivate you just to do it, just to fill out the form. Sometimes, you know, we could think, well, I'm afraid, or I don't have anybody, or cost too much money. If I only had time, and those are, you know, if we took away all those considerations, you just said, okay, just go straight to the paperwork, and then you could always change it. You could always shred it if you don't want it anymore, but you'll have that, and then you can go about your life with peace of mind and a way to really complete in a really clear way while you're here. All right. I love you all. Thanks so much for being here. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Cheryl.
Take good care of yourself.
Thank you, Cheryl.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Love.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah,
Bye.
I'm still over here.
Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Mm,
I don't know where the rest of everything is.
yeah. It looks like a beautiful day there. The sun's on your face.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. It's nice to see you.
Perfect Santa Ana mountain day.
Hmm.
Nice. Living your best life.
Yeah, it's still, there's always a spot for Cheryl and Karen and Mackenzie.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I want to come see you guys. All right. Thanks
See
for
you
joining
around.
us. See you around.
Thank you.